For those listening, debt is a four-letter word for most people. There are many people in my position, so-called financial gurus, who say live totally debt-free. And there's other people who say cut up your credit cards. And that's good advice for certain types of people. So you should definitely cut up your credit cards if you don't know, you can't control your spending. You should definitely. But I don't know how people live without credit cards. I don't know how you can check into a hotel, rent a car, or go shopping and go out for dinner, but you should cut up your credit cards if you're a shopaholic. That's good advice. And the other thing about debt, there's good debt and bad debt. So this is going to be the lesson today, is there's good debt and bad debt. And if you only have bad debt, which I classify student loan debt as bad debt, the main reason it's bad debt is because it's the worst possible type of debt. You see, if I get into trouble as a businessman with debt, I can declare bankruptcy and I'm clean. But the trouble with student loan debt, you can't do that. It hangs around your neck for the rest of your life. So if you're a student, you shouldn't take on student loan debt unless you absolutely 100% guaranteed that you will commit to graduating. So have you seen a lot of kids drop out of school?
Oh, yeah.
And so the problem with student loan debt is a person has to know what are they going to study. I have two friends, they're both medical doctors, and they came out of school with $500,000 in medical debt, in student loan debt, but they paid it off in 5 years because they're medical doctors. They had high paying jobs. And so they delayed having families and all this, and their whole objective was to pay for becoming a doctor. Okay, so as far as the subject of debt, there's good debt and bad debt. Again, it goes back to the financial statement. Income, expense, asset, liability. So debt falls in here. So let's say I'm going to buy, everybody says I'm going to buy a house, and everybody says my house is an asset. That's not true. Your house is a liability. I don't care if you have no debt on it or not. A house is a liability. Same as if you have a car. Okay. A car is a liability. And the reason for that is, as we talked about earlier, the 6 words that are basics of financial education, financial intelligence: income, expense, asset, liability. And the 2 other words are cash flow. So when you look at the average person, they have a job, money comes in here, they pay for their house, and the money goes to a bank through a mortgage. So it's not an asset because the cash is flowing out, so it's a liability. So the definition of liability, does it take money from your pocket? And for an asset, does it put money in your pocket? So when I have a rental property here, it puts money in my pocket. So if I live in the house, it's a liability, because even if I have no debt on it, I still have taxes, depreciation, repairs, and upkeep, insurance, and all this. When I rent a property, I've done a good job buying it and structuring it. Every month, it sends me money. So I started off when I was 25. I had a little 1-bedroom condo, and it put $25 in my pocket. It was a start. So this was good debt. You see, the debt also went out and paid, but it also put $25 in my pocket. So net, I was making money from my little house. So today, my wife and I own 6,500 of them. And every month, 6,500 houses put money in my pocket. My people who live in them love me and all this because they have a place to live. But all of this comes from debt. So they're 100% financed here. It's all debt. So this is good debt. And what makes it good debt are the 2 most important words: cash flow. So what most people do is they have student loan debt, SL, and that debt is going out this way. You know, it doesn't put any money in your pocket. You can say, well, I have a job. Well, that's still you working for it. So I don't work for any of this money here. I do this job once, set the deal up. Every year I add more and more and more of it. I'm borrowing money from here. It's coming here and going this way. So the debt is putting money in my pocket, and bad debt is taking money from my pocket. So the problem is, if you're going to use debt, you've got to be much smarter than this person here. You've got to be very, very smart. That's why I took real estate classes when I was 25, and I've never stopped taking real estate classes. Because you buy a piece of real estate and you make a mistake, this turns into a liability. This, if I get the renter leaves the place, this goes here that fast, and the cash flows that way. Okay, it's going out of my pocket. So it has nothing to do with real estate. It has nothing to do with the car. Nothing to do with student loan. It has to do with these two words here. So good debt, again, is debt when I borrow for this and it puts money in my pocket. If I had a car and I borrowed money from it and somebody rented from me as an Uber driver or something and it put money in my pocket, it would be an asset. My wife and I have a boat, and you know, most boats lose money, but our boat makes money because it's in a charter. You know, people rent my boat all the time. So it has nothing to do whether it's a boat, student loan debt, a house, a car, or whatever. It has to do with these two words here, cash flowing. If the cash is flowing into your income statement, into your pocket, it's an asset. It's good debt. But if it's taking money from your pocket, it's bad debt. About debt, there's good debt and bad debt. Any comments on that?
Well, I think just like Trump, you know how to apply the rules of debt, and he calls himself the king of debt, right?
If you're going to be successful, like whether you're an employee or entrepreneur, you've got to control the direction of your cash flow. So you look at most people here, we've talked about it earlier, they get a job and the cash flows out here, goes to the government, called taxes. Okay. Trump doesn't do this. I don't do this legally. The reason is because we're entrepreneurs, not employees. Employees have this, entrepreneurs don't. Because it's a type of asset. You'll pay, most of your money will go out through taxes in your lifetime. And then they tell you to buy a house and a car. A car is an asset. No, a car is a liability. You got insurance, gas, upkeep, and all this. Now, if you buy a taxi car, it could be an asset. It's cash flow. And that's very simply it. So this is a poor person. Money goes out. There's a lot. We just interviewed some National Football League players who make millions of dollars in their 20s. And most of them are broke in 2 years because they can't control cash flow. Intelligence, IQ, is can you control cash flow? Not your college degree. College degrees are important, but they're not going to teach you this. So the cash flow game trains you over and over and over and over again to get your money in here to get cash flow this way. So I started with this. Cost me $18,000. I paid for the credit card and I put $25 in my pocket. Okay. It's an infinite return because the cash flow paid for the mortgage, it paid the expenses, pays the operating costs, and I still made $25. Kim's first deal was the same. Hers wasn't $18,000, it was $50,000, $45,000. And they put $25 in her pocket. But Kim now owns 6,500 rental properties, and she pays no tax because the income comes from here. If you have a job, you pay tax, but income, the rich get richer because when you have asset income, taxes are less. You can get it down to zero if you want. But that's financial intelligence. But can you control cash flow?